beach lover. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Jennifer Lindquist and my friends call me Jen. Today we're going to discuss what to expect at a 2-day art show. I've done a 2-day art festival a couple of times so far, and I just feel like it'd be nice to share a few things that maybe I didn't know and wasn't quite expecting. So you will get paperwork in the mail once you sign up, and then not the day of, but before the day of, you'll have your booth fee due. So if you've submitted your application but you've not paid your booth fee, you'll need to go ahead and do that to confirm. And when you go to the show itself, you'll have instructions in the packet that they send you about where to check in, where your booth is going to be located. But you absolutely need to check in at the check-in artist booth. And what you get there is you'll get a packet of papers. You'll have, what I found for both is a little card. I don't know what this is for, but I have it, and I guess it's my identification of who I am. And then I also received like an 8x10 size of the same thing that I had to put up in my booth. So what I did was I put it in a plastic sleeve and hung it up inside my tent. So you might want to just think about that, bring something where you could hang up that piece of paper in your tent. So when the judges come around, they know who you are. So some places only give you a 10x10 place, which is big enough for a 10x10 tent. But in the case of my last one, I got a 12x12 space, and so I was able to actually put signage up in front of my tent, which was a nice little perk. So just be sure that you know how big your space is before you start bringing things to set up outside of your tent. It's bad etiquette to put stuff in front of your tent. If that's not allowed, you need to use the space that you've been provided for that. All right, so the requirements for booth setup may vary by the type of festival. Some festivals will allow any color tent to be set up, but usually when you start getting into some of the higher end festivals, you have to have a white tent. So be aware and check that before you sign up if you don't have a white tent. I have one now, but I didn't have one when I first started. Also judging. So when judges come through your tent, you definitely want to be there. You're not going to know the exact time that they're coming through. So what I would suggest is maybe practice before the event. Have an idea of what you're going to say as far as what your art process is, and keep it quick if you can, because they're not going to spend a half an hour in your tent talking to you. What your art process is, what inspires you, and maybe even who your favorite artist is. Someone asked me that, and she said she could see that artist in my artwork. So it made a lot of sense to her, and I thought that was really interesting. And if you're an introvert like me, practice on your own talking to an imaginary judge. I think it'll be worth it. Some of these art shows have receptions. So I went to the reception at the last art show. I didn't go to the one back in October. I wasn't there that night and wasn't able to make it. So what I found, they're just very humble, simple little meet and greets generally. And there will be the committee there. The ones who set up the show, they may have some entertainment, there'll be food. And I highly recommend, if you're new to this, just sit at a table with some other artists. I didn't do that and I regretted it, and I think it's really great to meet other artists at these shows, because then you can share stories. You might be able to get tips and tricks from them. Anytime as a new artist that you can meet other artists, especially if they live near you, is wonderful, because information tends to travel faster from artist to artist than even online, I think. All right, so when you're at the art show, you might want to take some time to meet some of the other artists. Now, I don't recommend, if it's busy, walking away from your booth or spending a lot of time hanging out in front of someone's booth or in someone's booth. Just go, say hello, introduce yourself, and then go back to your booth. And then maybe when there's some free time, go say hello and get to know them a little bit. Ask them where they're from, compliment their artwork. I really just think it's good to build a rapport with other artists And then if something's going on and they know about it and they think of you for some reason, then maybe they'll contact you. And maybe you can do the same for them. That's happened to me before, where someone asked me to teach classes. Now I don't teach classes, but I knew someone who did, and I was able to refer them, even though I'd only met this person a couple of times. So I think meeting other artists at your events is very valuable. All right, so when you're at these art festivals, there are a few types of customers. And if you're not used to it, it can be a little difficult, and it can be a little frustrating. You're new, people don't know who you are. You may or may not be selling really well. So you can expect customers to just walk by your booth. And I have a tendency to be this type of customer at art shows because I just want to go and see the art and have a nice day. And I walk through, or just walk through. I don't actually walk into the booths. And there's something about these art festivals with the artists inside the booth that make me, as an introvert, uncomfortable. Now that I've been doing shows more often, I'm more comfortable with it. But a lot of people aren't. They don't understand that the artist would just like to meet you, not just sell you something, but genuinely meet you. So just be prepared for that. You'll also get the browser. So you're going to have people that are going to come in and look at your work and, oh, that's beautiful, ooh ah, look around and leave and never come back. And you'll probably even get people that are like, oh yeah, I'm going to come back and get this, or oh, I really like that and I have to think about it. And they never come back, because people don't want to be rude, but it's okay, because sometimes people do look you up and buy stuff later from you, and sometimes they don't. So don't let that get to you. Just be prepared, know it's going to exist, be friendly to everybody, and treat everyone like they may look you up online in 2 months and order something from you. You'll also get the lingerer. So if you're not familiar with this type of customer or person who walks through your booth, they'll come in, they'll look around, they'll take their time, they'll talk to you and talk to you and talk to you. And you know, I find that it's actually okay. I don't worry about rushing them off necessarily, because I find people tend to be more comfortable coming into my booth. If there is someone there, you just have to understand that you need to have sort of an exit strategy. Excuse me, I have someone else that I need to say hello to. And that's it. And then you can go and talk to the other person. Now, if it's excessive, then maybe you need to have a plan for something like that. I haven't quite encountered that yet. And then, of course, you're going to have your family that's going to want to come in and talk to you and hang out with you. So what I would recommend is maybe just standing at the corner of your booth so you can talk to your family. They're not blocking the entrance to your tent. You can still converse with them and have a good time, but just be aware you're going to have to break away from that conversation if you need to attend to someone who's shopping in your booth. All right, so I think that's pretty simple. All right, and breakdown of your tent. So I highly recommend not breaking your tent down until the festival is over. Now, in the last show, they actually specified if you break down your tent early, they will not invite you back. So that's concerning. I kept that in mind. I saw many people start breaking down early, and maybe they knew the rule and had no intention of coming back because it wasn't the best show. But I prefer to just never burn my bridges, and I always wait until the show is completely over before breaking down, unless there's a significant event like really heavy winds or heavy rain, and I know that I just need to pack up my stuff and get it out, or it's going to become damaged. Parking. So you cannot always park near your tent, and you should be aware that there's usually designated parking for artists. Now, the last show I actually had to leave my booth after setup and go move my car because the police were going to the cars, and I didn't want my car towed and I didn't want a ticket. So I had to move my car out of the way. Also, be sure that you bring snacks and water. If it's a cool day, it may not be that big of a deal, but sometimes it's very hard to get away from your tent. And there may be tent sitters at the shows, but it's been my experience 2 out of 2 times that no one comes to the tent to offer to sit. So I have a friend or a family member come and help me at least for a portion of the show so that I can just run to the restroom rather than watching another artist to watch my tent. And I always have snacks and water because I tend to get really dehydrated. I'm a mermaid, so if I'm not in the water and it's hot outside, I don't do very well. So I always make sure I have a lot of water with me when I go to the art shows. That's all I have for you today, and I think I may be able to come up with more on this topic. We could go over my tent setup, and I can show you what I use for walls, which was super cheap, but that's something for another video. If you really enjoyed this video and you like seeing more information on these art topics, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and then ring the bell to receive notifications as soon as I put my videos online. And just so you know, I also do time-lapse paintings and the occasional live painting chat if you'd like to join me. Anyway, that's it for today. I thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you at the beach. Bye!